who incidentally became the head of state, made a unification decree, turning Nigeria from a federal country into a unitary state. That is one. Secondly, and more importantly, is the fact that by military hierarchy, when the commander-in-chief, wherever he is, he gives order at the top, it must be followed down. So Nigeria became a unitary state. And that's what we are suffering from. So today you see people banding about words. Some will call it fiscal federalism, some will call it true federalism, some will call it cooperative federalism. It all means that there's something wrong somewhere. Now, in reality, federalism is federalism, where power is divided between the central government and the component units. These component units, some countries call it counties. So we have had regions in the First Republic, now we have states. Between the central government and the component units, such that each level of government is autonomous on the powers given to it by the Constitution. But unfortunately, it is not so. Now, when this government was coming into power, the campaign, part of their manifesto, was that they were going to return Nigeria into a true federal system. As if that was not good enough, the committee headed by El-Rufai was also established. They went out throughout the country and made their submission, but their submissions have not seen the light of the day. The issue is this: if we don't practice federalism, there will always be problems. And thank God, in fact, this even the auspicious time. Why is it so? It is so because the grants normally gotten at the federal level is no longer coming in the way it is desired. So states are now being forced to look about other ways. That's why they are making some suggestions. But maybe when we come to that, but it is expedient. If we run away from it now, we eventually come back to it.
Let me welcome Mr. Yomi Obaditan, a legal practitioner and also a judge. It must be coming from the court.
Yeah, I'm coming from police station.
But here is related judiciary. You are welcome.
Thank you, sir.
Money coming from all sources.
Somebody is saying something. Hope you had it.
I had it.
Oh, that's
Please, I deal with it. Please send me my terms today.
Now, Saki, the same question I ask you. Election weeks, months away. You are still talking of decentralization, true federalism, regionalism. Are we not just playing with words?
Well, we are not playing with words. Even if you are playing with words, the definitions given to the various grammar focus on one issue: decentralization. If you call restructuring, well, that's a word. Decentralization is a word. Devolution is a word. They all gear towards one goal. Let's reduce the power at the center and let power devolve down the line, so that the center that has been made too attractive will be reduced, and the states that constitute the federal component will have greater power. It's not as if we have not practiced it in the past. I think during the First Republic, I was not around, but I know it was practiced successfully. We had some states. We had like.
You are not in Nigeria.
I was in Nigeria.
Okay. So people might think that maybe you are.
No, I wanted to ask.
I wasn't born.
You were born.
Of course, I was born.
You are 10 years older than I.
Okay, let me put. I wasn't in the country. Okay. But at least I was old enough to at least know what was happening at that time. It was practiced successfully. Now you see, whenever we discuss this issue of restructuring, my mind continues to blame Obasanjo. Because when he came in 1979 as a military head of state with Murtala Mohammed,
Okay.
No,
76. No, 76. Oh, okay, when he came in 79.
He came in 79.
And when he tried to when he handed over power from military to civilian in 1979, he introduced this kind of a presidential system of government, and that has been the beginning of the problem in his country. if he had left the thing to be like we had in the First Republic, before the First Republic was truncated for the Second Republic, I think things wouldn't have been, we would have improved along the line of true federalism. We call this country Federal Republic of Nigeria. Not just a Republic of Nigeria. It means that federal component must be seen in the administration of this country. But that has not been the case. So, and if you say it is too late, no, it is not too late. We continue to remind ourselves, even if it is the last day to the election, we continue to hammer it that we need restructuring. We need to devolve power. We need to reduce the enormity of the power domiciled at the center. That is all what this restructure, or whatever language you use, it's all about. And we need it. It is not too late. We continue to remind our politicians, and we have said it on this platform, that the present crop of politicians, those who hold power now, they will not accede to that, because they are profiting from the system, the wrong system. Otherwise, if the APC made it a campaign promise, just like PDP also made it a campaign promise, so why should we have problem about it, if not because of selfishness? So we continue to remind ourselves that we need it so that the country can move forward.
Okay, some people will say that Nigerian democracy is different from the kind of democracy that is being practiced in the US, even in the United Kingdom. So this is our own federal republic. Is it not our own form of federal system?
You cannot have your form because you are not the one that originated it. When you have a form, that means you're having a phototype, something, or in a particular, we call it pseudo, something closer to. But before I dwell on that one, let me just take time to go back on the last speaker. Obasanjo was not the root cause in 1979. Like the earlier speaker has spoken, it was the interregnum, the intervention of the military in 1966 that destroyed the federal structure of Nigeria. However, in preparing for 1979, there was 50 wise men minus one that came together and said, since the paramilitary system failed, what do we do? And the minus one was Awolowo said he's not going to be part of that group that set up the 1979 constitution. So in their own wisdom, they felt maybe the American presidential system of government would be the way out. And if you look at it, it is not the system, but it is the actors. If we follow true federalism and we allow the federal system, the presidential system of government that they practice in America to work, it will have been working for them, just as it's working in Nigeria. But here, the actors will always abuse. Somebody define what is drug abuse. Drug abuse happens when you do not use it according to the prescribed. The same thing, presidential system of government. It is an abuse of it that we have because the actors refuse to follow the laid down procedure. Not only that, if you look at the constitution itself, it was structurally wrong. If you look at the composition of local government, they listed it. It's not the central body or the constitution that will define the number of constitutions. It's each region, which we now refer to as state today, who will determine how many local government they can handle, they will have. And so when you look around, in paper, we call it federal system of government, but in reality, it's a unitary system of government. And that's why the power is still revolving in Abuja. That's why you have the Inspector General must give instruction to the police in Osun, give the one in Taraba, and the same thing, the military act, until we are able to go back to that structure and repair that structure and allow true federalism. And what is federalism? Federalism is where the component body are independent of the center. That means each party have their own legitimacy. The constitution, each state have their, the structure, the constitution, and everything. They only come for ceremonial purpose at the center. Now you are asking that is our own democracy different? No, what you have is what Pareto and Mitchell called elitism. In the definition, these two people I mentioned, they are among the people we call the political philosophers. they look at what is democracy, and they come in their research work and say there's nothing called democracy. That what you have is elitism. And what is elitism? Elitism is a government where the elites hold forth and they determine what they want to have. And so when you look around in what we're having today, most of the people you have here, they are the elites. And not only that, what compound is that they are recycle elites.
Are they actually the elite or the privileged?
Well, you can call them privileged, but we call them political elites because there are no elites in many of that. I'm referring to political elites.
Political elite, okay.
And the what make it worse is that we have recycled people who have expired, but because they have the substance, they have the connection, and so they are still relevant. For example, I was in secondary school when the president was minister in the 70s, and by the time he came back in 80 something, I was in university. And he's still there. And even inside he's saying, I'm tired. And so when you bring such a people to become among the elitists, what it cannot move with time. In the sense that in Africa, majority of our leaders, they do not read. Because reading makes a man. And in the philosophy of Aristotle, he said there are two groups of people in every society. They are the thinker, which we call the philosopher, and then we have the producer, who are farmers or who produce, and then we have the security. But in our own country, you will discover that the elites in political side we have, they are the security men who are supposed to watch over, but they have seen that there's a lot of labor, a lot of milk and honey in the system, and they are so forth. So they could not hold the security networking, and that's why everything is collapsing. So what we have today is that it cannot be defined among the intellectuals, or even in comparative study. You cannot compare the federalism you have or the democracy you have here with Canada, USA, or America, because we do not allow structure. What are those things that define what's democracy? Number one, there must be freedom of choice. Two, there must be rule of law. Three, there must be party functions and many other things. When you look at these three, something is wrong. There's no true party structures. There's no, the rule of law are not allowed. Because even when cases, if you read today's paper now, they say, okay, help us bring this senator's case back to Nigeria. And they know what they will, and that will be the end of that case. So these are some people, because we don't allow institutions to function. The parties are not function. The rule of law are not function. The three who are supposed to be check and balances are in problem. If they say, well, I think the senior president, the executive, the president determine what the judiciary will do, determine what the legislature will do. Otherwise, in a developed country, instead of making noise now, the president will have been given a query, and before you know it, he's impeached. But you cannot do that because he has laymen who are supposed to watch dog in the National Assembly, and they have said, whatever the president brings, we will do. In America, they will not say that. So our democracy is a faulty democracy. It's a pseudo-democracy. It's not a democracy in real sense.
But there's a limit to which we can blame the actors, as against what the barrister has said. You see, the actors operate a document which every one of us believe is faulty, and that's the Constitution. So no matter what the actors want to do, they have a document that is guiding them. It's the Constitution. I mean, a situation where you have how many lists on the Constitution and how many belong to...
Okay, there's
So the actors are, they have, but there is a limit to which we can blame the actors. It is a document being operated by the actors that is fundamentally faulty.
I agree with you that there's fault.
Okay, now, he talk about Aristotle categorize the philosopher king and the soldiers, meaning that according to you, the individuals are the problem, and Sake is.
I also blame the law itself that is structurally wrong.
Sake also spoke along that line. Yes. Now, but my question to you is this: even if we have institutions that are strong, you see the Nigerian in you and I,
the actors,
still being able to follow the rules, even the existing rules. To what extent are we complying with them?
Yes. You see, it's a myriad of factors. But the person that said is the individuals, he has a point. The person that said the Constitution too has a point. Now, if you look at it critically, those in government today, I stand to be corrected. People are there in government to serve their personal, selfish, and parochial interests. Otherwise...
Or most of them, or some of them.
Well, most of them.
Okay. 90%.
Yes, so that is... Now, like I said here, I engage a member of the House of Reps And I asked him, do we need 360 members? And he agreed with me, no. That I even said that I should go and Google it. Though I have not even taken time to Google it too. That's one. Then secondly, I engage him. Don't you think the humongous amount you people are earning that you need to reduce? I said, well, it's not their fault. That the money was fixed by the revenue mobilization and allocation of fiscal. So what I'm saying in fact, you see, the constitution to some extent is defective. Now, part of the defects of the constitution is that he mentioned the issue of the local government. Then, even this remuneration too is something. But even if the constitution is bad, you see, we have this blame game. We try to locate our underdevelopment on the colonial masters. Colonial masters, after how many years? Now we come back, we locate it in the military, after the military interregnum. Now, why is it difficult for us, for example, to change the current system? We all know that we are not practicing true federalism, or what some people call fiscal federalism. And we have people that have been paid at the National Assembly to do that, yet they have refused to do it. So, individuals, we have the, but you see, more importantly, the structure on ground now. Look, if you bring saint to Nigerian politics, you may be tempted. So, we have to accept, like, look at what is going on now. The universities have closed for about 6 months. Personally, the ASUs too cannot be exculpated from the blame, just like the government too. Maybe the degree may vary. But what we are saying is that can't we sit down and do something meaningful so that we all be better off?
Okay, Saki, can we sit down to discuss something meaningful? Looking at past experiences, Jonathan tried it. APC during campaign and at inception also had something similar to restructuring. Up to now, they have not seen the light of the day.
It is difficult to say yes, because as I said earlier, people who are constitutionally empowered by way of being in the National Assembly or wherever, they are supposed to do it, to set the pace, but they are profiting immensely from the bad system. So it may sound difficult to say that change can come now, except you have something else, because you see, like Muri said, one begins to wonder the rationale behind two chambers. Not only two chambers. Look at the number of people in the two chambers. Duplication. House of Rep will do it, will say something, will pass to the Senate, repeat the same thing, and they will be tossing the thing to be. You see, so there is a lot of duplication in the system. And if we rely on the present crop of, we call them leaders, isn't it, to handle the situation, we will be wasting our time.
And who are the leaders or who are the set of people that can bring the desired change? Do you know them?
Well, maybe I know them, but it's not me that can say it in this forum. But one thing I know is that when we get to a point where the economy cannot sustain them, they have no option. Because
haven't we gotten to the point now?
No, we are about to. But at least they are still collecting allowances, they are collecting salary. Where by the time we reach next year, which NMBC is not likely to be giving them the money they are receiving, the reality will dawn. If there is anybody...
Before the reality gets to them, the downtrodden will have suffered.
Assuming our president is in a position we expect him to be when he came in the first time as a military, he will have been able to understand what to do.
Okay, another headless topic. Let's move to the second issue now. Saki, I'm starting with you. It was said that some governors, or do I say governors, advised Mr. President to, among others, retrench workers who have attained the age of 50 and above because of this economic crisis or challenges that we are facing. The NLC has expected it has reacted. What is your take?
I absolutely agree with the NLC's reaction. Irresponsible, unpatriotic,
shameful,
selfish, everything. I agree with them absolutely. You see, the governors came up with 3 recommendations And going through the 33 recommendations, there was not a single one that has to do with them. Either as individual governors, as a forum, what do you call themselves?
Forum of governors.
Forum of governors. None. They did not speak about the humongous allowance they take by way of security votes. Security votes depends on how big the pulse of a state is. There's no uniform security vote. The richer the state is, the more no, and they did not. They addressed the issue of their allowances, feeding allowance, and everything, and even their salaries. Rather, they now want to push everything on the workers. Why? If you say workers should be retired at the age of 80, it means they also should. There should be a law that would prohibit people above 50 to hold public office. Yes, that should be the case.
What is good for the goose?
Yeah. You see, so the recommendations are not patriotic.
Okay. Mr. Lagora, Sake is saying, of course, the NLC equally says so. Sake said he agrees with them that they are selfish. 33 recommendations, no. Human beings are naturally selfish. Like, why you not expecting that?
No. And the problem is, you see, there's what I want to call entitlement syndrome on the part of our leaders, the governors. You see, I find it very difficult for me as a marginalized elite. Yes, I'm a marginalized. Yeah. My friend is not a marginalized. He has served in government. You see,
I love your grammar.
Yes.
We have marginalized elites.
Now, the system allows an individual, Accountant General of Nigeria, to mismanage over 100 billion naira, for God's sake. What type of system is that? That is one hand. Now, precisely on the question before me, if they are not entitled, if they are not carried away by this entitlement syndrome, this is the time for them to look inward. What can we do? Everything that comes here in this country by way of tax, by way of increment here, is borne by the common man. For example, why should a governor go out with about 30 cars? Or even 10 or 15? Look, maybe the lukewarm attitude on the part of the lackadaisical attitude on our part too is also encouraging them to do that. Everything that comes has to be borne by the common man. In spite of the problem we find ourselves today, what has the government done corporately to say, okay, because the country is in a financial dire strait, we are making this sacrifice. In terms of their humongous allowances, they are not reducing it. In terms of Estaco, they are not reducing. Everything must be borne. If it is petrol, it's a common man. If it is electricity, it's a common man. If it is a salary. Look, even as we are talking now, not all these, some states are owing. Some state governments are owing. 30,000, what is 30,000 today? In spite of that, they are owing. For the labor to said something, maybe they should increase 50% across board. I find that also to be bad. This is the time for the governors. Rather than asking people to make more sacrifice, this will have been the time, Mr. President, the situation we find ourselves in the country today, we have to look inward. For example, how can we be in Osun 4 to 5 million people, and we have two federal government, whatever it is, the steel lorry mill and the machine tools, they're lying down fallow, doing nothing. We have got to a time that these governors have to put on their, with due respect to them, on their thinking caps and look how they can generate money. In Osun, ATM, I'm not talking about ATM card, I'm talking about agriculture, tourism, and mining. It can give us money. But because we are getting money from somewhere, and that money is depleting now, NNPC has been incorporated as a limited liability company. So they are not bringing the money. And we have resorted to borrowing. Maybe by the time they start borrowing us, either at the bilateral level or at the multilateral level, maybe we sit down to think. So I don't, like my brother said, I strongly believe that in fact, it's unfortunate.
Okay, let me come to you now. If you look at some governors, they have essays. Thank God you are one.
He was one of them, yes. You can't deny that.
He wants a chairman of local government.
He will pick his own question at the appropriate time. This is for you now. Now, there was even a time a governor said he had about 1,000 of them. And he defended it. He said it was a way of providing jobs for the people. Now, the question is, which jobs are this set of people doing? And they also, of course, their salaries and allowances are far bigger than those in the civil service.
Before I answer you, I'll go back to the Constitution too. It is because of the structure of the Constitution that allow them to go into such an abuse.
But still abuse the Constitution?
Because
why can't we do what is right?
Because we in every system, especially in democracy, there are what we call checks and balances. If you abuse it, the House of Assembly is in a position to call you to
realistically, you know what
realistically, they are their boys. And any speaker that dare it has to go. So that is one. Then two, like I said, they have this syndrome that it is my chance. And when they come, they do not come with what am I going to be remembered for. They came as this is my chance to partake in the national cake. And almost every average people who have been in that class come with that notion. So only very few of them that realize, look, I want to leave a legacy behind. And when you have with that kind of mind, and look back to 40 years ago, let's look back to even 50 years ago, they did not come that this is my chance. They came with what impact can I make in the life of this citizenry. As at the time, the number of literacy in Nigeria, they're up to 20%. Because those who go to school in his age or period has to travel to Sierra Leone and possibly Ghana to be educated. But they now make it compulsory that let's have education in anywhere, even if it's under 33. So they came, and the same thing when you go to Tanzania. It came, at the time the man came, they were less than 20. By the time he really died, it was about 95% literacy. So, but when you look at those who are in position of authority today as governor, ask them, under their 4 years, what are those things they will remember them for? Even where they mention health. I was once in the hospital not more than a week ago. I have to pay for my service in government hospital. And yet they will tell you they build hospital, they do everything. If you go to school, there's a particular pupil less than a month ago was sent home because of 300 naira and was hit and died.
Are you sure so far are not taking laws into their hands?
That's why they have inspector of education. That's why we have permanent secretary. That's why they have commissioner for education. So they could call them to order. So that's what I'm saying. It's
maybe they are here now and they may have to call them to order.
So okay. No, you're asking me the question about the
you want to
it's also an abuse of the constitution. You don't need to before you can employ somebody, do you have the resources? Then how much these people you are bringing, what is their productivity?
Yes. What are they going to add?
Obi told us that some people used to follow him all over and say, what's your business? Why are you following me?
Yes.
Okay.
So I was able to make some savings.
Saki, if you also look at the federal structure, I know you agree with me that the federal government to a large extent is wasteful.
Certainly.
And in each state of the federation, we have some mighty buildings they call federal secretariats in states. I know Oshu is building one.
They're not completed.
But in older states, when you get to those states, where you get to Ibadan, you find some federal, you find Ministry of Agric, Ministry of Health, Ministry of Association, all manners of ministries. And if you ask me, what are all these set of people doing? Most of their headquarters are in Abuja. Is that not wasteful? Is that not, perhaps that was what the governors are talking about?
Well, it may sound wasteful, but the fact of the case is that because the federal government superintends over states, there are certain functions that the federal government has to engage in.
I asked Saki because I knew by virtue of his former position, he will understand.
Okay.
So there is a need.
So, guy is talking from experience.
There is the need for federal presence in all the states. So that's why we have this.
And all these ministries.
All these ministries, as long as the federal government has cornered so many functions, because I don't see the business of federal government in agric and rural development.
Even in education.
in what do you call it, in water resources, you know. So these are all areas that ordinarily should not have federal input. But as long as the Constitution allows the federal government to pretend over, they have to make their presence felt in the state.
This set of staff that are posted across the state.
Yeah.
Do we need them?
We need them as far as the system operates. We need them. Then when you talk of this retinue of staff, you said you asked me. You see, the point is, in civilized countries, you have people who assist you during campaign to get to office, to get elected. Not all of them are materials for governance. But in this part of our country, the moment you take part in a campaign to get somebody elected, you believe you have to be part of the government.
And if you are not part of government, this one.
In advanced country, what they do is that they pay them off. For the services you render for me to get to power, this is your pay. No, then the man will now sit down and assemble people who can assist it. Not necessarily people who assisted him to get elected. He will assemble people he knows. I have the knowledge, not because you were part of those who danced.
Not because you deliver your word.
No. You'll be paid off. If you have that competence to be part of government, of course you'll be. But it's not compulsory, not automatic. That because I assisted this man to get elected, I must be part of government. No.
Sorry, just to buttress what he has said.
Okay.
If you look at the genesis of Muhammad Yusuf that was extrajudicially killed, information has it that
the Boko
Haram leader. Information has it that a governor used him and his team, and then after the whole thing, they were abandoned. That's the first. The second one is this man from Kwara, Baraje, or what's his name?
Baraje.
Kawu Baraje, the former PDP national chairman.
The new PDP stuff.
Very good. Recently he said something.
People they recruited from Mali and Co.
You understand what I'm saying? So they brought people in. That's why I'm quoting him. He said they brought people in. Then after the settlement agreement was not okay. They failed. They demanded, I think 120 billion or whatever it is. The government was able to provide through the central bank about 100 billion.
That would be an allegation.
And that's, yes, allegation. Yes, but he alleged. It was part of this. It was part of the NPDP.
New PDP.
Yes. New PDP. So that's the allegation he made. What I'm trying to say is that, you see, when people help somebody to come into power, it is not necessary that it should be part of the government. But there should be mutual settlement so that everybody goes.
Just the way Saki said, they should pay them off.
Pay them off, yes.
I just want to chip into what you said.
Okay.
Most of these ministries you see, some of them are not supposed to be in the state. Some of these, this
government,
federal government.
Yes.
For example, when you say Federal Ministry of Agriculture, ask them where's their farm.
Yes. Even housing.
Where are they? So it's supposed to be under the state.
Maybe this is part of what the government.
Yeah, those are some of the abuses.
So we cannot just throw the baby with the bathwater. In the case of suggestions or piece of advice by the governors.
But for them to asking the reduction of workers, no. It's them to look inward and reduce the number of the appointees.
Yes.
And then the other area where wages are.
Okay, I'm sure those watching us are.
Maybe they are going to say presidential system will go very well. When one American president and his wife, after a dinner as the new president, they gave them ticket for them to pay. But in Nigeria, we feed the governors, we feed the president, so that area ought to be part of their recommendation.
You pay for rent of the White
Of course, yes.
That is you don't.
So it is time for Nigeria to move to that level.
That's why I said our own form of democracy is different.
Maybe
it's an abuse.
The complacency on the part of the people. You see, I still remember in the 80s, you had these professional pressure groups that were there. The NBA would talk. Even under the military, they would still talk. But now everybody has been compromised.
It's civil society.
Civil society.
You don't see them again.
Today, apart from Serap and one other or two, everybody.
Their hands are soiled.
And they have been part of the government, so they can't criticize the system of which they are.
Everybody is saving his head.
Well.
But some people fought for this democracy.
That is
Of
it.
course.
If
Even with their life.
by saying what you have said, I'm not sure you are saving your head. You are saying the truth.
Well, I'm saying the truth, but to what extent will the truth make impact? You know, we talk here, and I mean,
What I'm trying to say is that
Maybe when
That's the weapon we have.
let each individual play his or her.
No, ironically, look at Festus Keyamo.
Yes.
Look at the role he has played as a civil. Now he's in the
look
system.
at what is doing now.
It doesn't make any difference.
That will be a topic for another. Let's move to the third topic because of our time. Yes, Mr. President, in the last 3 years or thereabouts, 2020, 2021, and this 2022, has given 29 directives to the armed forces to either crush, end. There was even a time he said enough is enough. But after this enough is enough, there will be another directive. And some people are saying, in spite of all these directives, the menace of activities of these bandit terrorists is still on the rise. Now, some people are saying, is it that the federal government lacks the political will to implement, or the president, the presidency lacks the political will to implement his directive?
Well, I think I put the blame at the presidency because he is the commander-in-chief. He has the control of the coercive forces. So there's a difference when your guy say do something and when he wants you to do it. If you ever work with people at that level, when they want something done, there's a way of saying it. And if they want the status, they also want to know how to do it. So as far as this issue is concerned, the president handled the terrorists, the Boko Haram, with kids' glow. Most of the time, you even hear their co-worker will speaking, you just have to bear with them. You either lose your land or you lose your life. If you work with me and make that statement, I will sack you. So that means they are speaking the master's voice. And not only that, there are even moments when external forces, nations, will say, look, these are the troublers of your history. This is their list. In case you don't know them, they will give you them the list. They say, okay, in Bureau de Change, they only pretend. This is how they supply. We have 4 of them in our jail in the United Arab Emirates. This is 94 names America is given to you. And yet, Father will go to court and say, bring these people. They say, we are waiting. So what else do you want to say?
They are investigating.
They are investigating. So, but if it's the other side, it's Kanu and the new whatever thing in the East that attack other ethnic group, you will see them react. Okay. So that's it. We put the blame on the president, not because of that.
Thank you for what Omar is trying to say. Is it the case that the federal government is just, or the presidency is just playing to the gallery, is not actually prepared to crush banditry or bandit and terrorists?
Well, we have said it here that the the security architecture of the country is fundamentally faulty. It's obvious because there is a certain agenda being pursued by the presidency, and that is what is affecting the security of the country. We have said it here, where we have about 95% of security chiefs coming from the same section, the same more or less the same tribe of this country. You cannot have good security. You see, all these directives, I've said it here, that is recycled directive. You said 29 directives, and this 29 it translates to 29 Security Council meeting. Because each time they host a Security Council meeting with the chiefs,
or after major,
then they host Security Council meeting. After each Security Council, there was this directive: go and crush them. Ndume was on channels this morning. He made a statement. He said the president should know that he is not a director-in-chief, but he's a commander-in-chief. Ndume is the chairman of the Senate Committee on Army. He said it. He said he should know that he's not the director-in-chief of the armed forces, but commander-in-chief of the armed forces.
Meaning that is not commanding.
Yes, it means a lot.
So what about all these directives we read from the spokesperson?
It's just by way of routine.
The people,
routine is routine. You see, I think the president is deceiving himself by the fact that there's a report that said Buhari said during the week that his orders to security chiefs were yielding desired results. Apparently, because last week, according to Premium Times, only we had 15 cases of attack, people killed.
So it was minimal.
15 minimal compared to what we had in the previous week, which was 59.
And those who attacked, those who were engaged in the massacre,
yes,
some of them have also been arrested.
So I think he's back this.
Since I've made the comment, but I want to come back to that. Now let's look at the other way around. Is it that the spokespersons or those working, don't let me limit it to spokespersons, working with the president, are the people set of giving these directives, and they are just on the pages of newspapers and media stations. Those directives did not get to those that actually needed it. Is it? No. Don't you think another?
No, I think it all boils to the fact that
because there must be a way the commander-in-chief, according to Sake, will pass instruction to his lieutenant.
Well, with my own understanding of it is that Femi Adesina and Garba Shehu have been instructed to write a piece down. So immediately anything happens, yes, assume they just pick it and then send it. I know, but
they just put date there.
They just put date there, my brother. That's what they do. The paper is already there. Oh, yeah, put it. Look, on a serious note, even if it is not like that, the president cannot feign ignorance of all that is going on. Now, a lot, in spite of, sometimes when they sit down to, in spite of the cozy nature of their offices, they should realize that some people are out there that will think that out of 20, some journalists sat down to examine these directives. Out of that 29, what are the effects? It's not enough. The president once went to Benue and said he has instructed the Inspector General of Police to get to that he did not know. Our government does not work like that. If the commander-in-chief issues a directive, it means there are people that must ensure it is implemented.
Like the chief of staff, like the SA on security.
Then later you come for the response. What you feedback? There was nothing like that. So the president in the country, he didn't travel, telling us that he didn't know. So that's how. Look, we have to be up and look at a lot of things are happening. So, well, of recent, let us concede that they have made some arrests, they have made some progress. But if you watch, how much are these people demanding for? This trade. It's about 100 million or thereabout. Those who have been, just imagine, the sin they committed is that they entered public trade, which they thought would be safer. And look at where they find themselves. And faster. Look at where they find themselves today. So the government, the president is the commander-in-chief. Like so look, and sorry, just the last point. El-Rufai has gone to the president again, telling him that the bandits almost form a parallel.
Not even form. He said they formed, not almost. Said there are now two governments.
So what are you talking about?
And that's why I say you wanted to ask me a question.
These directives, is this still necessary for the presidency to be issuing directives on the pages of newspapers when we have attacks of by bandits or terrorists? Is this still necessary? So that we don't continue to be mocking ourselves.
Yes.
Because when you mock the president, certainly you are mocking the entire nation.
Yes, I think it's good for them to keep on mocking. But the reality on the ground is that the dog is now biting his owner. In time past, the terrorists were not attacking the military. Now they have the audacity of people going to the bodyguard, the people who maintain the security of the president.
Yes.
So that won't work them up. The thing is always consuming us. That's why you see this little change in the last 2 weeks. Because they gave the look, we are coming for the governor, we are coming for the president. And the president himself was not even briefed. That's why to tell you that some people are supposed to be, okay, this is what we had, this to this.
Yes, Rufai said
that was the one that was voted.
So those directives, do we still need them?
So that's why he's the chief commander. If he will keep on giving that directives, commanding, but the problem, I think, this is my personal way of seeing. the president may be office, like he rightly admitted that the 26 to 7 hour is a bit task for him. He is not aware like IBB. Like IBB pick paper on a daily basis in his days.
Because of the age, he talked about.
Yes, so as a result, so most of these things that are happening, is not in the knowing, and those who are supposed to give him the feedback on a daily basis are not doing so. And there was a directive, so that we don't make mistake. Does any of you want to come and see the chief of staff at a point in time? As a result, so most of these army commander don't go directly to him. And the chief of command, if he's not affected, are you aware that there was burgling at the Asho Rock? And today they didn't tell us the detail. And in last week's newspaper, a governor said they came to governor's house and stole about 60 million, and that was the second time. So when you realize that shows something is missing.
No, only living here. That one.
Yeah, so if it's happening there,
that is not the kind. I'm not sure that is the kind.
I'm just telling you, if they can have the audacity of going to Asho Rock, which is
really
only
the terrorists now.
No, and something. I'm just telling you.
Even in individual homes, I will see have some kids that will steal their.
The issue of insecurity is because they are now taking on the army themselves.
Okay.
Not just ordinary army, the bodyguard, the brigade of guard, killing them. It is there that make them to wake up that it is we either will finish them or they finish us.
Okay, exactly. These directives, I'm more interested in these directives. I don't want us to shift from the focus of the topic. These directives, judging from what almost all of you have said, some of them are not coming from the presidency.
How do we know?
Yeah, because he said I think there's a prepared.
That's my assumption. That's my assumption.
Now, my question is this: you are appointed as Inspector General of Police, or Chief of Army Staff, or Chief of whatever staff. You have a responsibility. That office expects you to perform some duties, some functions. You even need the French directive to carry out your statutory and legitimate function as Inspector General of Police.
Ordinarily, one may not need it. But since there is somebody up there who superintends, he must give directives. But in a situation where you have competent hands, you won't wait for directives before you perform.
But the DG did not tell us to move into the studio by 3.
Yes.
That's your.
I have to be here.
By the occasion that you will pass down some directive to you staff. That is normal. And that's what the presidency is also doing. And you see, it has been said that the president has refused to talk to the nation. He enjoys using his aides people have lost confidence in this age. You know, like Muri Jokuladi said, maybe there are some papers they just pick and.
No, maybe he has done the job of press secretary.
I'm not.
But I'm saying in advanced democracy, you see the president or prime
on a weekly basis, even in parliamentary system, he has to meet with the National Assembly. When he's part of them.
When you see your president talking to you, it has greater weight than just one aide turning out some press releases. You know, and you see the situation in this country has become very, very. There's a report. You know, there's a report titled. Let me read to you: "The Economics of Nigeria's Kidnap Industry." The economics of Nigeria kidnap industry, and this report says between last year July and June this year, 650 million naira has been paid as ransom.
650 million.
650
It's
million.
not going to be more than that.
If we consider this place,
yes, for one person.
Well,
650
But then the issue of the president and his
2 sentences.
yes, maybe now that Oshibajo is no longer the presidential candidate, if he were, we could say he's so ambitious, the president can also delegate some of these functions so that things will be done at the right time.
It's late because the president has already delegated that if you are coming, see my chief of staff.
That's how far time we
cannot have
permit
access
us
to
on today's edition of this program in the newsroom. So much to be said, but time is just the factor, and that is the major challenge before any program. on a broadcast station. Kaudadria, thank you for your contribution.
Thank you very much.
It's great to be here.
Thank you, sir.
The program will be back tomorrow by the grace of God between 3:30 and 4:30. My name is Abiodun Dalebi. Bye-bye.